still runs. And then you're gonna have to, I guess, watch the waiting room as well. It's being weird.
Sure. I can watch the waiting room. If you make me the host, let me see if lets me make you the co-host.
Okay, cool. So it's recording on YouTube now, and then you're gonna have to, I guess, watch the waiting room as well. It's being weird.
Sure. I can watch the waiting room. If you make me the host.
Okay, so we are recording on YouTube. It is streaming on YouTube, I think.
Let me lets me make you the co-host.
Okay, cool. All right, so I don't know if you'd like to go ahead and do a little kirtan. Maybe it's a little early, but I already have it set up to where it's recording, and I can provide that link in the chat box.
Is that Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu back in the background there with Sri Rupa?
Yes, yes.
Okay, Haribol.
Hare Krishna Guru Prasad Maharaj.
I didn't recognize you with the beard, no?
Please forgive my beard.
And
We've got 6 more minutes until we're planning to start up.
So I'm going to go ahead. If you look in the chat box here, if anybody wants to share or save the link, it's recording live now, but you can share that link. And then later I can just get an audio version of it.
Perfect.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Nice to see you.
Very nice to see you. Thank you for joining. We're just waiting another 5 minutes to start up. Would you like me to change your name for you, Sri Rangavati Prabhu?
Yes, certainly. What is it, under Julie or something? Yeah. Yes,
Moto.
Julie.
It's under your Moto G Power right now.
Oh, okay. I'm powerful.
Yes, you are.
It's not 6:30 yet. They got 4 minutes.
well, bring my glasses. They're on the
Okay.
coffee table.
two more minutes before we're going to start up. If you would like your name changed and don't know how to, let me know and I can help with that.
The number to dial. I have 246.
So sorry.
Dinabandhu Prabhu. Dandavad. Glory to Srila Prabhupada.
Jai, I don't know how to turn on the. I don't see the unmute.
We can hear you, Dinabandhu Prabhu.
You hear me? Okay, great. Haribo, all glories to Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Otherwise, Prabhupada, thank you for joining.
No, I wouldn't miss it. It's 5 o'clock in the morning here.
Yeah.
Prasad Maharaj.
Well, thank you all so much for joining. It's 6:30 now. So we're going to go ahead and start this up. As you all know, we're all coming together
How do you turn the video on from here? Oh, there.
I'll send you there you go. We can see you, Prabhu. We're all gathering together to honor His Grace Edhani Prabhu. Edhani Aswabhava Das Prabhu. Ed Sazwa. Yeah, very, very dear friend, god brother, father. And yeah, we're just so happy to have that you all joined us and we can all come together. Since we have some wonderful devotees here with us, we'd like to, Guru Prasad Maharaj, would you like to start us off?
Well, I was thinking maybe Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu could start us off with a little kirtan, seeing that Edhani Prabhu was Edhani Svabhava Prabhu was a kirtaniya. It would be nice to start with kirtan.
We might want to mute more of our microphones too. There, get a little more clarity, possible.
Rangavati. Ours is muted, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well.
Okay, so we'll have some kirtan now and then we'll start up.
Nama Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami
Krishna Prastaya Bhuta
Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Saraswati Devanine Shunyavadi
Okay.
Ashtane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radhe Shyam Radhe Shyam Jaya 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 Radhe Shyam Jai Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Gaura Nitai Jaya Gaura Nitai Prabhupada.
Jai Gaura Premanandi.
Hari Hari Bol.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai. Thank you, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. I apologize. I should have mentioned before we started, we had to keep everybody on mute. Otherwise, it just creates feedback and the timing goes off. So thank you for your understanding for that. At this point, we're going to start. We want to give the family members that have joined. I see Nanda on. And Nanda, would you like to speak now or would you like to speak later? I don't want to put you on the spot, of course, but just want to give you an opportunity to speak now if you would like to. Okay, we can come back to Nanda.
Can I ask who is our MC's name?
I'm sorry, Prabhu?
Who is the MC's name? Is it?
My name is Sri Rupa Das, Dinabandha Prabhu.
Okay. I'd like to send you a message.
Yes, Prabhu. On here, it's under Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu and Sri Rupa. Dinabandha Prabhu, would you like to speak now?
All right, I guess because I was at the beginning.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm getting a message that Adwaita is here. Edhani Prabhu's son, Adwaita. Adwaita, would you like to speak now or would you like to speak later? Okay.
I'm only going to be listening right now, but I'm not going to speak.
Sounds good, Adwaita. Thank you. Okay, Dinabandha Prabhu, turn it over to you.
Edhani Prabhu ki jai.
Well, need to cut the grass. You want to cut the grass?
Anyway, way back in 1974, I don't remember, but Edhani remembers that I was out watering the grass at a temple that we had on Stanton Street in Portland. That was probably about the third or fourth temple that we had. It was a nice place, residential area, high up on a hill. And he walked up and I said, Hare Krishna. And he said, Hare Krishna to me. And he walked up the steps and opened the door. And I think it was Sikandi, Mahibharata's wife. She met him at the door and invited him in. And he was asking so many questions. He was totally fascinated. I don't remember how long it took for him to join, but eventually he joined us and he was such a wonderful person. Excuse me if my voice sounds funny. I have a disease right now after having COVID. This disease has come up where there's a nerve in my face that spasms, so it's hard for me to talk properly. So anyway,
Sorry, Prabhu. You're on mute.
yeah, no, I see. Anyway, he was such a sweet-natured boy and very happy, and he loved everything about Krishna consciousness. And we used to have a festival in Laurelhurst Park in Portland at Puspabhisheka Festival. And so this was, I think, the first one. And we needed somehow or other to have some picture of Radha and Krishna to make a flower palace and to throw rose petals. Portland is the rose city. So it was we wanted to make a flower palace and throw rose petals over some picture of Radha and Krishna. We found out he had ability as an artist. So we needed a big picture. So we built a big frame and we took a bed sheet.
Dinamandu
And
from India.
And we somehow nailed it very tightly to the frame and then gessoed it. And then he stood on a ladder and he made the picture of Radha and Krishna that was on the old Krishna book, the original Krishna book. And every day he was standing there on the ladder because he was a very short fellow. In fact, we used to joke with him that if we write his name sideways like that, that it'll probably be taller than he is. Edhani Yasva Bhavadas. And so we had this wonderful festival in Laurel Hills Park with flower garlands coming from the side of the painting. And we had everybody throw rose petals over the picture as we danced around. So that was one of the first major services that Edhani did. I don't exactly remember when he left Portland or how he left, but I know he joined Radha Damodar Party. And somehow, of course, we were a little bit zealous those days. Somehow the party found out that he had his parents' credit card. His parents had given him a copy of their credit card in case he needed anything. So whoever was in charge of the bus, he found out, he took it and just charged up a whole bunch of stuff. So that gave Edhani's parents a great image of Krishna consciousness. But we were a little zealous in those days. And somewhere along the line, he got maybe somebody knows the story. So I won't tell the whole thing. I just know that he was captured by the deprogrammers. So I'll leave that story for somebody else because it's very funny at the end. He just cooperated with them for a while and then somehow he escaped and went to the nearest temple. I won't spoil the ending. It's a very surprise ending. And then I pretty much lost track of him. Then somewhere I met him and found out that he was in Spain. And whenever we'd meet, we used to speak Spanish to each other. And at the end, he came here to India and he stayed in a city just nearby Delhi called Noida. In fact, there's a devotee on here who was very dear to him. So you can call his name sometime. There's a Kamal, you'll see on the list, there's a Kamal Verma. So he was with him at the last. I think he was the one who was with the police when they broke down the door and found that he had gone back to Godhead. So anyway, he was always he would come and visit me. In fact, he came to visit me, but he didn't know that I had COVID. So I was in my room and my servant told him that he's sick with COVID, so you can't come now. He had just come to visit me just about, I would say, a month ago. And that was the last I saw it. I didn't even see him. I was in my bed with fever. So we told him that, we're in quarantine, you can't come in. He was very good natured. He said, yes, of course, I understand everything. And that was the last I saw Edhani. I just heard his voice. I couldn't see him. Anyway, somewhere along the line, you can call a devotee named Kamal on the list there. He was with him at the last, and he was very dear to Edhani. Hare Krishna, Edhani Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Dinabandhu Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining us and sharing those memories with us. We're very grateful to have you here with us. Guru Prasad Swami, would you like to speak next?
I'm going to say one thing, but I would like Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu to speak before me. Of course, Raghava Chaitanya Prabhu, I don't think he's on. He's not so technically equipped.
He's working right now, unfortunately.
I couldn't get a hold of him, or I couldn't get a hold of Chit either.
Anyway, I just spoke with Chitsukananda Prabhu, who's also not a techno wizard. And I'm sending a message to his wife but she's not there to try to connect him. But anyway, he said he sends his obeisances. He loved Edhani, and he had so many wonderful times with Edhani Prabhu and Raghava Chaitanya. And I remember many of those times, the kirtans, they would go on for 10 hours, 12 hours, 15 hours. I would have to go take rest because I'm a real stickler for getting up early, but they would just go on all night long. And but anyway, I'd like to speak a little later, but I'd like Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu to speak first.
But Arjuna, he's our senior man also.
Arjun Prabhu, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu's asking if you would like to speak.
Can I be heard?
Yes, we can hear you.
Um,
We can see you.
You know, generally, I'm not such a wonderful speaker in crowds and groups. I do much better one-on-one. Platform has never been my best way of words flowing, et cetera, et cetera. But me and Edhani Prabhu, and I'm going to call him just Edhani because that's how we always used to relate. We went back to early 80s, if I'm not mistaken. And our relationship in Dallas, of course, and our relationship was one of a very jovial, comical nature. If you know Edhani Prabhu, he's so lighthearted and so humorous and such a beautiful soul, so gentle is how I always remember him. And so when I was hearing this news a few days ago, hearing COVID, all around COVID, I've been in the epicenter with COVID in New York, Bhakti Center for 14 months. And so I'm knowing what this is like to be around it and what we're hearing of India. And I was aware that he was living in Noida, Delhi, little outside, near Delhi, actually, or part of Delhi, I would think. And so I was relating with him even up to 3-4 days ago. I always send Prabhupada pictures around, and I used to exchange with him, sending Prabhupada pictures. He'd send something back. And he even, this was 5 days, even sending jokes, and our humor was always continuing. And then, so somehow, I'm not sure how Edhani Prabhu contacted the COVID, because he never expressed it, and it kind of blows my mind. He had a humility about him also, that he may not have declared these type of things. He was always just humorous, and Prabhupada Katha and Kirtan. So I was pretty shocked that it hit home in a very real way, in a very spiritual way, a loving God brother and associate, et cetera, et cetera. So we go back to the 80s, as I was saying, and our relationship was absolutely comical and beautiful. He would send a kirtan every once in a while that he kind of composed and created melody-wise or rag-wise. And I would kind of tweak it and suggest this and that, and Prabhu would do this, reorganize his kirtan and send it back, and we would have exchanges like that. Always absorbed, how I remember it, in kirtan. Always absorbed, and even in Noida and Delhi, where he was living, I think with his partner, I think her name is also Nandini, if I'm not mistaken, which is the name of his first wife.
Nandita.
Nandita, yes, Bharat, Nandita. So he was also had to be up till last week doing kirtans in one cafe there, constantly doing kirtan with that amazing accordion. He had the Polish culture, and he played this accordion so amazingly well, and just dovetailed it with kirtan. It was so beautiful. So very shocked, but in my heart, I can understand and I perceive that someone so absorbed in Prabhupada Leela and Prabhupada's Katha and Kirtan, there's no better combination than this. I would pray and hope, and I feel that his soul is reposed somewhere mystically, astoundingly, inconceivably at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada in some mystical way, or at least on his way, according to desire and, of course, time of leaving the body, et cetera, et cetera. I'm very confident that Edhani is such a wonderful place right now and at ease and just doing kirtan, during kirtan. It was the love of his existence. And so many things, private conversations we've always had that I don't really wish to speak about or reveal at this time. And just so pretty devastated hearing the news. Miss him dearly, have so much love and affection for Edhani, always have. And I felt he actually was very attached and loved me also. I could feel our back and forth reciprocal moods and ways and words and expressions. I don't want to get so emotional right now and lose my track, but I just want to end it with all glories to Edhani Prabhu, and we will miss him so dearly, especially my good self, so much, so deeply. And I'm praying that his soul is in the proper place, which I'm so confident of also. And all glories to the assembled devotees that I'm noticing, Guru Prasad Swami and Dinabandhu Prabhu. My heart comes to Vrindavan, seeing your good self, and all the assembled devotees, Chaitanya Prabhu, Shalagram Prabhu, Mother Kunti. So wonderful seeing you and exchanging over our beloved Edhani Prabhu. So I thank everyone very much for just coming together and having me say a few words. Thank you so much. All glories to Edhani Prabhu, all glories to the assembled devotees, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Jai. Thank you so much, Arjun Prabhu, for sharing. Thank you very much for joining and sharing. Very grateful to have you here. Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu.
Okay. I was gonna add something to what Arjuna Prabhu was saying about our God brothers leaving when they're very Krishna conscious, like Edhani was. I had this powerful realization when Urjaswat Prabhu left a few years ago. He didn't, he was having these kind of attacks that would stop him from being able to breathe. And anyway, one day he had one of these attacks and he was outside looking in the sky. And this other devotee, Navadvip, was asking Urj, why are you looking in the sky? He says, I'm looking for the Vaikuntha airship because I'm dying and I'm going back to Godhead. And so when Urjaswat, when he left, they had a table set up with pictures of him there in Tucson, because he did a lot of preaching there in Tucson. And when I went in there on the Friday where they did the cremation, we went in for greeting the deities and Guru Puja, and I could feel Urjaswat's presence so strongly that I was like, he's here. It was so powerful. And then Mother Sandamani asked me to give the garland to Prabhupada, and I turned around and Srila Prabhupada was glowing like the sun. It was so powerful. I was like, and I realized at that point that Prabhupada had come and taken Urjaswat. It was very, very clear to me that he was there and Urjaswat was there, and Prabhupada came to take him back. So I have no doubt that Prabhupada came and took Edhani directly back. And I think he was holding Prabhupada's hand, singing the holy names on the way to wherever they went. That's the way I kind of feel about it. Anyway, so Edhani and I go back sometime also. But most recent years, we spent a lot of time together at his little house there that he had in Canyon Lake. And it was kind of, I used to bring all the kids there, and we would meet up at Chitsukananda and Raghava, and we'd have this big, huge feast. And again, the all-night kirtans. We'd start at like 9 and go till 7 or 8 in the morning. And I was kind of like Maharaj. I was like, I gotta go. I couldn't stay up sometimes all night with those guys. They were just rocking all night. And the next night we do the same thing.
And this happened many times. I would go down there to his house after his wife passed away, especially. I would go down and spend the weekend or spend a few days. And Chitsukananda Prabhu would come and Raghava would come, and Edhani would cook and Shiv would cook. And again, we'd be doing all night kirtans all weekend. Just Edhani had such a taste for the holy names. You can't just do that. You can't just go and just start singing and just go all night unless you really have an attachment and a taste for the holy name. And Edhani definitely had an attachment and taste for the holy name. Another reason why I'm thinking he's, transported back on the holy name. Some of the other devotees, I don't know if Yogamaya is in the group here, but she was telling me that back in the day when we used to have this art business, that Edhani would do some paintings also, because he was such a great artist. He came up with this painting of kind of like a small universal form painting with planets and stuff. And it was done so nicely we couldn't keep them in stock. We used to sell so many of those. So I mean, he was always absorbed in some kind of beautiful artistic project, and along with his music. And I started about 11 years ago doing the St. Patrick's Parade here in Dallas, and a couple of the Fiesta parades down in San Antonio, and the Art Car Parade in Houston. And so even though Edhani would be working all night, he and Raghava would come up, and Chitsukananda Prabhu, they'd come up to lead the kirtan on the float, because we have a big float with a sound system and everything. And Edhani would come sleeping all the way up in the van with Raghava, because he just got off work in the morning because he worked nights. He would come and sleep on the way, and then he would jump out and start leading the kirtan on the parades. And Guru Prasad Maharaj remember those amazing parades we did in San Antonio, and he would come and sing for those. And no matter what, whenever there was an opportunity to sing, he was there. And I don't remember how many years ago it was that Mother Rasagya passed away. Mars, do you remember how many years ago that was?
I don't remember. I remember, but I can't remember how many years.
Yeah, it was several years ago, right? 10, 12 years ago. I don't remember. But anyway, so she had a regular program, a weekly program in her house, and Edhani would go there and do the kirtans weekly. Him and Raghava would go and they would do kirtans and associate with Rasa. And then when Rasa got cancer, she was such an amazing devotee. Mother Rasagya was so wonderful. Wonderful devotee. Anyway, so she was very healthy and health conscious, and she was like in the healing field. And somehow she got cancer in a place where they couldn't get to it. They couldn't treat it because it was tucked away behind something somewhere, and it was just inaccessible. So she just had to wait out until the cancer took her life, basically. So Edhani was there with Raghava and some other devotees, and they had like a 4-hour kirtan. And then they took a break for a little bit of prasadam, and then they started in again. And after about a half an hour of the kirtan is when Mother Rasa left. So he was there singing kirtan for Mother Rasagya when she passed away also. So Edhani was always there with his squeeze box, his accordion. But he complained a little bit later on that, he needed to get a new one because that old one weighed like 40 pounds and it was hurting his back. So I think on the video I saw, the recent one, I think he got a new harmonium that was a lot lighter. It was a different one from his old one that he grew up playing when he was a young kid. Anyway. And in San Antonio, I know Adwaita, I think, is here. He can tell some stories, but we would go there for the parades and for the kirtans, and Edhani was always, pouring on the ecstasy there, and the kirtan would go on, and then we'd take it outside, and Edhani was like, and I don't know, Marge, I haven't sent it to you, but there's a beautiful kirtan of Edhani doing a kirtan at the Riverwalk. It's really, really beautiful. Him doing a Harinam with the devotees there. Anyway, last time I saw Edhani was in 2016. my son, I took Gary to go be part of the 24-hour kirtan for 5 months. And Edhani met us at the airport, and we seriously inconvenienced him. I grabbed the wrong bag. It was exactly the same stride. It was like I tied ribbons on it and everything. It was exactly the same bag. I was like, unbelievable. So we had to drive back. And then on the way to the temple, the taxi driver decided not to, he missed the turn for the temple basically. And he went up this overpass and decides, instead of driving around and turning around, he decides to back down the overpass. And this is late at night already, it's around 11. And there's no traffic really, but the suitcases were blocking the window. And there was a vegetable cart bicycle rickshaw guy riding up the hill, and the taxi driver crashed into this poor guy, and his head smashed into the window, and we're all covered in glass. And Edhani, we were just laughing. It was so crazy. It was and then he came with me to Vrindavan, and we hung out a few days there, and we hung out with Arjuna also. We went to Arjuna's place, and Edhani was always being called, he told me, from the devotees. I remember some disciples of Bhakti Vikas Swami, they would ask him to come and do the kirtan for their preaching programs. And so when I was in Vrindavan that time, he said he was going to go to Agra to preach. And so I caught a ride up to the Yamuna Express, and they picked me up there. And so he was always doing Harinam and doing Kirtan and doing preaching. He was so absorbed in the holy names. I don't want to talk too much longer. Really going to miss Edhani. It's like so shocking. Couldn't believe that he's gone. We would also stay in touch, not as regularly as Arjuna, but every few weeks I'd ask him how he's doing, and we'd talk about whatever. We're definitely going to miss Edhani Prabhu. We could talk about him for hours because we had a lot of pastimes at the parades and different things and at his house, but there's a lot of devotees that want to speak. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. All glories to Edhani Prabhu. All glories to Prabhupada.
Okay. Thank you so much, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu. We have Chitsukananda Prabhu joined us actually. Wow. So we're going to go to Chitsukananda Prabhu next. I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself, Prabhu.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
I just sent you a request to start your video. I'm not sure if you'll see that on your screen.
Oh, okay.
But if it's a problem, we can hear you fine. So no big deal.
Okay.
We don't have to have
Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the devotees, all glories to Maharaj, Guru Prasad. Well, this is a very unfortunate, unhappy thing for me to be able to discuss anything about Edhani, but his life was dedicated to Krishna. His love was with Prabhupada and all the devotees, and he gave his whole life to preaching and dancing. And as one devotee was just explaining, just a few days before he left, no sign of his having anything, huh? That's very strange. But anyway, we're all indebted to Edhani for his wonderful participation and always reminding us of Krishna. We can never forget Krishna when we were in his presence. We had moments of playing baseball. We had moments where we ran off to the bar, but not to take alcohol, but just to watch the game, the football game, because that was the only place to watch it. And besides that, Edhani was a very versatile person. He could associate with anyone. And I remember him sleeping before he left India, sleeping outside of Raghava Prabhu's house. And there he was, sleeping outside with some blankets in the middle of winter. But so once he got to India, I think he was quite happy. I don't know how the relationship with the girl who he was hoping to marry someday worked out, but maybe some of us can find out a little bit about that. But in general, Edhani was a great friend, a great brother, and we wish the very best for his soul, that he go to the highest places that he can go. If he had any desires, maybe he has to go some heavenly planet for a while. But if he didn't, and he gave up everything, and then, but anyway, he's under Prabhupada's care. That's the main thing. So Prabhupada knows exactly what to do when we leave this world. Prabhupada and Krishna will discuss it and see where he will go, as we ourselves are coming to that point sometime in the near future. Well, I wish him all the very best. I wish him from the bottom of my heart love, friendship, everything that he gave to every one of us. May he receive that many million-fold times more. I thank you, all of you, for. I wish all the best to all of you who are still living on this planet, and we don't know for how long, but we want everyone to be happy and serving Srila Prabhupada. That is the goal of life. And if you have a guru, then serve your guru, but still Prabhupada is the guru of gurus. Blessings to all of you, and Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Chitsukananda Prabhu. Thank you very much for joining us and being here. Very grateful to have you here.
Thank you. Grateful to be able to be with you all.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Guru Prasad Swami, would you like to go next?
Okay, I can go.
Wonderful. And then we'll ask Yadavajari Prabhu to speak next. And if you would like to speak, please send me a message. And we'll make sure we put you in the queue. Thank you so much.
So I first met Edhani Swabhava Prabhu and in Houston Temple. He and his wife, Pandita Gokul, they were the pujaris. And I just was so attracted to him. He was just such it was like a magnet of happiness. And nobody could ever be, I saw some devotees like arguing or something. He would walk in and they would just stop. He was like, the bliss bar. Couldn't, it was amazing. And so then after that, of course, he moved to San Antonio. And so, I would visit him whenever I could, sometimes as a GBC, especially after I became a GBC, it was difficult, but every time I could be in the area, I would come and stay with him for a couple of days, he and his wife, until she left this world. Wonderful devotees, and such a nice place, and always kirtan, every time listening kirtan. He was so attracted to music and art and his wonderful paintings. And so the last few, of course, after he moved to India, I would see him every time I went. I would stop in Delhi and we would get together for a day or two and have prasadam and talk about things. And I was always every time I was trying to convince him to come back to San Antonio. I told him, somehow or another we'll get you a place to stay, and he would say, yeah, all right, but it never happened. And maybe that was Krishna's arrangement, so he could leave this world in New Hastinapur. But, instead of San Antonio, Texas. But as far as I'm concerned, one of the most unique qualities that I saw in Edhani Prabhu was I never saw him criticize anyone. To me, he was the personification of what Rupa Goswami says, Bhajana vidam ananyam anyanindati shunyam hridam, free from envy, free from any, bad or negative feelings toward anyone. And I admired that quality so much. I was in situations where, it was really distressful and people were doing bad things, and he would just maintain such a wonderful attitude. So the last two times I saw him, well, I think it was the Kartik of, every time he would come with me when I was invited to a program, and I would always ask him to speak first. Mostly in Noida. Many times I usually go to Noida temple for a day or two. And I would invite him to chant and speak. But then during the Damodar period in Kartik, I was invited to a big program with thousands of people in Delhi. And most of them didn't know Edhani. And I said, so I brought a very special guest, Akirtaniya, and I want him to speak about the holy name. And so they were surprised that they thought, in India, it's like Swami is like, Swami, if you're Swami, you're everything. And if you're anything else, you're like another category. So, and they were amazed. But when he chanted and he spoke, everyone was blissful. And then we had this big abhishek for like 5 hours. And he and we did the whole thing. It was supposed to be everybody, but they were so happy with his chanting that he and I did the whole abhishek for hours with flowers. We covered the deities, and such a blissful thing. And the last time I saw him was March of last year, just before I left India. We were together, and so we were talking about San Antonio, and he said, although he did do Harinams on the Riverwalk, he always wanted to rent a boat. And the devotees did do that one time. But he told me he wanted to do it. We were talking about that. And I said, well, I've got a lot of miles, so maybe I can get you a ticket and you can come back and we can do that, and I'll figure out, get some Lakshmi together to rent the boat. And so, but then the whole COVID thing rolled in, and, he couldn't travel, and airplane were canceled. So I wrote to him a few times, but then that was back then. And when I got the news, someone had written here, Kunti Devi wrote that his daughter, Kamala Krishna, said that it wasn't COVID, it was a heart attack, which would substantiate what some devotees said. They saw him a few days before, he was okay, And so, well, whatever it was Krishna. And so I was suggesting to some of the devotees like Chitsukananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, and any devotees in San Antonio, that the next time I can come there, maybe we can get together and rent a boat and do a Harinam up and down the river in his honor. I'll be glad to sponsor that. So let us keep in touch and try to do that in his honor. So thank you all very much. And I'm also very happy to see so many devotees. I see how Edhani's wonderful, blissful personality has brought so many wonderful Vaishnavas together who I haven't seen for years. So I'm very happy about that too. Shriman, His Grace, Shriman Edhani Swabhava Prabhu Ki Jai.
I'm sorry, when I made my post, I was informed that it was COVID, but it was a heart attack. So everybody should know that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Guru Prasad Maharaj. Thank you so much. At this time, we'll ask Yadavacharya Prabhu to speak, and then after that, we'll ask Kamal Verma Prabhu to speak.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Can you? Can you guys hear me? Hare Krishna.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hear you
okay.
and see you.
Yeah, I'm not good with buttons, so I always press the wrong ones. So anyway, first let me pay my obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees. You know, when I was thinking the whole day on, you know, what I was going to say and how I feel and stuff, but it's very difficult when a God brother leaves his body. I remember in the 70s, one of the devotees asked Prabhupada because there was a war going on, the Vietnam War. So everybody was concerned about dying and going to war. And so one of the devotees asked Prabhupada about that. And he said that, you know, when a war comes, is Krishna going to protect his devotees? You know, are devotees also going to die? And Prabhupada very casually said, yes, devotees also die. But it was done in a very casual way. And we understand that birth and death comes automatically. We don't have any information on when we're going to take birth or when we're going to die. So when death comes, you know, it's pretty much, it's devastating because it catches us by surprise, especially someone like Edhani. You know, I'm getting to that age where I've seen a lot of my God brothers leave their bodies. And what happens is I always feel two things. I feel joy and I feel sadness. And I feel sadness because we lose a friend. We lose someone who we can take shelter of, you know, unconditionally and not worry about being taken advantage of, or, you know, as most even so-called friends do. They're there for a reason. You know, there's always an external reason. With devotees, it's a little bit different. Because they don't want anything, so you can have a real relationship with. And with me, I'm not a natural devotee. I became a devotee by accident. I struggled all through the years. Why Prabhupada and Krishna kept me around, I don't really know. But it's just their causeless mercy. As you know, if you want to see causeless mercy, you know, a perfect example of that. I don't deserve any of it. But there are some individuals that are natural devotees. And I've ran into quite a few devotees that are like that. I mean, they just, you know, I have a very close friend of mine. He became a devotee and he took to it like duck to water. With me, I had to be beaten to be Krishna conscious. I'm still having a very hard time. Edhani was one of those individuals that was a natural devotee. He just had qualities that every time I would get around him, I felt this comfort. And this comfort was, can you hear me okay? Yeah, it's okay. Because I'm outside, so there's a lot of noise going on. But he's the kind of individual that anytime I would get around him, he would make me feel like I'm worth something, which is a very, very rare thing. And only someone who's actually as sincere, you know, can appreciate things, you know, good qualities or you know. But anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is that I don't remember ever being in contact with him where he would make me feel like who I am, which is a half-ass devotee. And that quality in itself is very, very rare and very precious. And there are certain individuals that have it, and I call them natural devotees. Just like Chaitanya Chandra, I've known you for a long time, you know, and you just have this natural ability to be a devotee. You know, you love Krishna. I mean, you're driven and drawn to that. Me, and you got to drag me there, you know, in order to, come on, let's go to Kirtan. Okay, you know, I'll go to Kirtan. But there's certain individuals that are just natural devotees. They're attracted. They love Krishna. They love Prabhupada. They love Kirtan. They love, you know, it's like no matter what situation in life they are in, or no matter where they're at, they always have that natural tendency. They don't have to struggle to be a devotee. And those individuals are very, very rare and precious. And what happens is a lot of the devotees come down or voluntarily come down to help Prabhupada with this movement. So we don't know who devotee is what, or what their state of consciousness is. But the way, as you stay around for many years, you get to understand what a real devotee is. It's not the dress, it's not the, it's not the, showboating, as I have a tendency to say, showboat, Hare Krishna. It's just someone who has love for devotees and Krishna and Prabhupada. And he had that. And that's why he was so pleasing. It was so easy to be around him. It was so easy to deal with him. I don't ever remember having a bad time with him. It's so, unfortunately, we have to leave our bodies. The fortunate thing is when an individual is in that state of consciousness, their life after this is going to be so much greater, so much better. Prabhupada will never let us down. He will. So, you have to excuse me. I'm a little bit sentimental. But to have association with devotees like that is a great, great blessing. And I am very, very grateful that I had an opportunity to associate with him, and all of you also. I know pretty much most devotees, older devotees anyway, I've been around for a while. So, and, to get your association and to have you encourage me and guide me and, kick me in the ass once in a while to push me to be Krishna conscious, I appreciate that greatly. And he was one of those individuals that always encouraged me to be a better devotee. I couldn't have asked for a better association. This is what I like. This is what I would like to have, through this lifetime, next lifetime. How many ever lifetimes I have to go through, before I go back to Godhead. I would like to have that kind of association of devotees like you guys. So what happens is to have an individual like Edhani that can make you want to be a devotee is a very, very special thing. So he deeply affected my heart, and he'll always be there. And I will always, pray to Krishna that he takes good care of him. Because what happens is those devotees are very, very, it's like having a gem. And he was one of those. He was a gem as a devotee. So, him passing away is going to be a big loss, especially for me, because he used to always come to Chicago, and he loved my wife's cooking. So we always got him to come over. But to have a devotee leave his body like that, and he's going to be very much missed. And on a personal level, I'm going to miss him greatly. And it's not a bad thing to miss an individual like that, not a devotee like that. You get blessings from them. Anyway, I don't want to take up too much time. What I really want to say is I love the guy, and I know a lot of devotees love this guy. So what happened is the love that, that the devotees show towards another devotee, it very much pleases Krishna. It pleases Krishna more than worshiping him. Worshiping a devotee is even more precious than worshiping Krishna. Krishna even appreciates that even more. To sit there and have those feelings and have that love for a devotee is a very precious thing. And he allowed me, and he became my friend, and he allowed me to associate with a great soul like him. This is very, I appreciate that greatly, and he'll be very much missed. Anyway, I like to say Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Haven't seen you in so long. Maharaj, it's been a very, very long time. It's really good to see you. I'm right there with you. I'm gonna miss Edhani. He's very precious. He's gonna be in my heart for a very, very long time if I last. Hare Krishna. That's it. I'm done.
Thank you so much, Adavacharya.
Hare Krishna.
Does Ananda want to say anything?
No, that's
Uh,
that's
With,
good.
with
She
Ananda
she
Vedanta?
loves. She's fired up about kirtan, but not when it comes to speaking. She makes me imagine that. You know, she can read Sanskrit like, you know, like it's natural. You know, but she makes me speak. I don't get that. You want to say something?
Thank you so much, Yadavacharya Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
very much for being here. Very grateful to have you here. Next, we'll have Kamal Verma Prabhu speak, and I believe he has a presentation to share with us, and then Shalagram Prabhu.
Can you hear me all?
It's a little hard to hear you, but we can hear you.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me all?
Yes, that's better.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. I was the one, I was taking care of him at his last time of his on this planet, and as you all rightly said, he was a magnet, he was a true devotee, and there are a lot of things which I want to share and talk to you and tell you what he used to, talk about. One thing is that he used to miss all of you, and I don't know most of you, and I don't know your names, but he used to talk about Dinabandhuji a lot. He used to talk about Mitra Dasi a lot, and so many friends. He used to talk, and he used to tell me a lot of stories about the deprogrammers and other stuffs and all. So as I said, I have a lot of things to share and tell you, what we used to talk about music and incorporating Indian music, Vaishnav songs and Western choirs, and just singing the glory of Krishna everywhere in the world. And he used to literally tell Indians in Noida that, you guys are so lucky that you're born in India, that you're born in the place where Krishna was born. And I don't know, he used to tell me that I don't want to go back now. I just want to be here. I just want to be in Vrindavan. So thanks to all my friends in ISKCON Vrindavan, especially Dinabandhuji, Arjunji, and other devotees who helped us with this difficult time to do his last rites. And I just can't tell you how difficult it is right now here in India to travel and especially do somebody's last rite is kind of a war-like situation here. And I'm really, really grateful to Dinabandhuji, Arjunji, and other devotees from ISKCON Vrindavan to help me out. And as I said, I have a lot of things to say, but I have just made a small memorized video of Edhani ji, and don't be emotional. Just rejoice his presence, and I will just share the video with you. Thank you so much. I hope you can see my screen, and just give me a thumbs up if you can see Edhani ji and my screen. And do let me know if you can hear the sound, so that I will not just keep on playing the video without the sound. Thank you so much. Can you? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. thank you all for giving me this opportunity to speak about him. And Hare Krishna and praise to all of you. And thank you, Chaitanya ji, for uh, making this meeting happen. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Kamal Prabhu, for joining us and for that wonderful memorial of Edhani Prabhu. That was beautiful. We need to get some recordings from you. It seems like you must have a lot of nectar
Yeah.
there.
Yeah,
So
I have
be in
a
touch.
lot of record.
I think we might have lost you. It's breaking up now. But thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, I think you want to try one more time, Kamal Prabhu?
Yes, I'm saying I have a lot of video recordings we used to do kirtans and some sessions with him. So I will put him in a drive and then share with you so that everybody
Wonderful.
can enjoy his presence. Thank you
Thank
so
you very
much.
much.
Thank you, everyone. And once again, I would like to thank Deen Bandhu ji and Arjun ji for helping us for his last rites. It was near to impossible to travel and do this. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Mitra Prabhu, are you available to speak next? I know I'm going a little bit out of order, but I meant to call on you earlier and it slipped my mind.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I wasn't expecting to say anything. I just met him briefly passing through Dallas years ago and going out on Harinam. And then on Facebook, he just always acted like we were old friends, that we knew each other forever. And so we would just joke back and forth. And then he contacted me and said, you need to connect with Kamal Verma. And we need to all get together in India and do some kind of musical kirtan presentation. That's about all I have to say about him. I'm here mostly to hear about him, and I want to hear somebody tell the story about the deprogrammers that Dinabhan. That's what I'm waiting around for.
It's going to happen.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right. Thanks for asking me. That's about all I have. I wish.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing. The next we'll go to Shalagram Prabhu and then to Mother Kunti.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, very good. I've known Edhani Prabhu since 1978, 79. And at this time, I am really thinking about his sons and daughters. That's Liana and Kamala or Kim, and Adwaita and Nanda. And Adwaita and Nanda are on this call and understandably chose not to speak in the beginning because this probably impacts all of them even more than the rest of us. So I just want to say to them that if there's anything that we can do, please reach out to us. We would be happy to do what we can. And myself and my wife, Kunti, are here for you. So please don't hesitate to ask. So I was a brahmachari back in 1978, 79 with Edhani in the Houston temple. And at that time, for most of the time, I was the treasurer and he was the pujari. And of course, back in those days, there was one pujari. So I remember many times he had a lot of rounds to do in the afternoon and we would chat a little bit. I didn't really get to know him that well at that time. Everybody was busy. And I believe it was during that time that he met Nandita Gokul. And they started to associate and then got married. And so I have some memories of him back then. He was always such a wonderful Vaishnava. And of course, as everyone is saying, he was very gentle, and he loved kirtan, and he was quite a kirtanier. So later on, I moved to Dallas, and he moved to Dallas. He had quite an amazing career in Krishna consciousness, if you will. You've heard a little bit. You know, there was the whole deprogramming experience that happened before that. He was in Spain for some time. He was in Portland in the very beginning. He was in Houston and Dallas, and of course, towards the end in India. And so he did all kinds of services. In Chicago, he was in Chicago too before Houston, I believe. And so in Chicago, he tells stories about going out on Sankirtan during the Christmas marathon as Santa Claus. And he had some pretty amazing stories about that. He and I don't remember the devotee that he was partnered with, but they would walk into a bar, and they have these Santa suits on with the big stuffed pillows and so forth, and they would run from opposite ends of the bar and run into each other with their bellies and just create a big scene, and everybody would start laughing and get in a good mood. And so they collected a lot of Lakshmi and distributed a lot of books. So, practically everything he could do in ISKCON, Edhani did it. And he was such a joy to be around. He was such a gentleman. One of the, excuse me, one of the a couple of memories that I'd like to share, very specific, were that when we were both living in Dallas, my wife Kunti and I lived across the street from him, like almost directly across the street from he and Nandita Gokul and family. And so we did various different things together. I remember when we sanded the floors of his house with one of those big belt sanders, working hard together, doing things like that. And what happened at some point, I don't remember how it came about, but I'm a musician, he's a musician, and I play guitar, and harmonium and keyboards, and he played keyboards. At that time, I don't recall if he had his accordion. I think he did, but he didn't use it, or maybe he got it later. Anyway, so at some point, we decided, or someone decided, to start a band and go down to Deep Ellum, because that was the happening place for especially the young crowd in Dallas at that time. It's not too far from the temple. And this was happening right about the time that the Dallas restaurant, Kalachinji's restaurant, it had been open for a little while, but it was just really starting to get going a little bit. There wasn't that much word out there yet, and so forth. And so we put this band together, and he was the lead singer and the keyboard player, and I was the guitar player and the arranger or composer. I wrote a couple of songs, and we put some things together, and we had Chandravali, who's the head pujari for many, many years at the Dallas temple, and Indranila, god sister of ours, as the backup singers. So we used to rehearse. We put together a whole repertoire, and it was 98% Hare Krishna mantra with all different tunes, just like what he's been doing for years. And there were a couple of unique songs that I had written, and a few things like that. And we used to rehearse on the stage in what's called the sanctuary, in the auditorium upstairs there. And if that wasn't available, we would rehearse in the house right across the street that's now Dharma's house, Dharma Prabhu. Who had that house at that time? Was it just a temple house, I think? I don't remember. But we would rehearse over there. And I remember some devotees told me one time that Srila Tamal Krishna Goswami was out for a walk with some devotees, and he stopped and he listened, and we were playing across the street in this house. And he commented, he said, that's live music over there. It was pretty good, he thought. And he was saying, it's live. It's not just some recording. So we would go down to Deep Ellum on Friday and Saturday nights if the weather wasn't too cold. And we would set up on a street corner, and Radhavinod got us a permit. So we could actually set up legally on a street corner, and we had a generator and we had the amplifiers, and we would just rock out chanting Hare Krishna. And, you know, we would get down there about 8 o'clock at night, and people would be, you know, going to the bars and so forth. And sometimes we would get a big crowd of people around that they were so attracted. And, you know, we're blasting out this music, and, you know, nobody could kick us out because it was legal. And we would play until 11, 12, sometimes 1 or 2, couple of times stayed up for Mangalarti. And it was very successful. And in fact, we noticed that the restaurant started to get really packed on Sunday nights, you know, after we'd been out for a Friday and Saturday. So we really generated a lot of publicity for the restaurant, helped get it on the map, so to speak, I guess. But we just had a blast doing this. It was just a blast. There's no other word for it. And I remember one time we were out there and we knew we were having success because there would be some, how do you call it? You know, very proselytizing Christian types. And they felt like we were invading their turf or something. And they brought a big platter of meat and they're sticking it in our faces, you know, as we're chanting and singing and trying to, you know, get us to stop. I don't know what they were trying to do, but, you know, the audience just booed them away. And the chanting would just go on. So there were many memorable experiences at that time with Edhani Prabhu. And I used to go to Canyon Lake when first his wife moved down there and then he moved down. And so I would go and visit, and my wife also sometimes I would go alone, sometimes she would come. And as everyone was telling you, we would, you know, I'd be on the guitar, he'd be on the keyboards, and we would, you know, rock out until the wee hours of the morning, you know, Hare Krishna mantra, just you know, doing all kinds of tunes and trading solos and that kind of thing. And Nanda was there, and Adwaita was there, and it was very sweet. So that was also a very memorable time. And then, you know, some years later, Nandita Gokul, his wife, passed away, and that was very difficult time for Edhani, and it was very difficult for the 4 children at that time. Very difficult. I think it was especially difficult for the younger. It's hard for everybody. At any rate, so they lost their mother. And then at some time after that, Edhani made plans to go to India with Nandita Gokul's ashes. And so my wife Kunti and we accompanied. So I missed one important thing. Edhani Svabhava Prabhu and Nandita Gokul were the best man and matron of honor at my wife and I's wedding. So I missed that. That was another event. Oh, okay. She can tell you a little more. So after Nandita Gokul passed away, and Edhani wanted to take his wife's ashes and scatter them in Vrindavan, in the Yamuna. And Kamala Krishna, Kim, and Nanda went with him to India. And they had undoubtedly the experience of their lives with all the things that can happen in India. And so we were there too. I remember we took a train from Delhi to Calcutta. And I won't share all the details, but you know the adventures that can happen when you travel together like that. And barely getting on the train in Delhi, barely making it because we wanted to stop and get some prasadam along the way, and then it was crazy. So we did the train ride. My wife got sick, and in the Calcutta train station, she was very ill. That's okay. That's all right. And this was really amazing. So we're negotiating, trying to get a ride to Vrindavan, right? Because we came on our own, and there wasn't any. There was nothing arranged. Edhani made some arrangements, but this wasn't arranged. So we're dealing with, and you know what it's like. You have 1,000 people trying to sell you this car, that car, etc. So we're trying to negotiate, and finally these two gentlemen pulled up with a what do you call it? One of those Jeeps. And everybody starts piling in, and I was helping my wife, and I was the last one to get in the vehicle, and just before I was ready to get in, they pulled away. And suddenly they came to a screeching halt before they got out of the parking lot. And Edhani jumps out, throws the door open, jumps out, walks to the back, throws the back open, and starts pulling the luggage out. And he told me, while this was going on, or shortly thereafter, he said that these two men that had picked us up, he said he heard them talking and he couldn't understand what they were saying, but he kind of got a bad vibe, right? It sounded like, maybe they were going to just take us somewhere and rob us and whatever. So he was very cautious, and he was very wary. And when they pulled away without me, that was it. He stopped everything, jumped out, pulled everything out, and we started from scratch and got 2 cars to go to Vrindavan. So for all we know, Edhani could have saved our lives. Who knows what was being planned, but I trust his intuition. So that was one more of many, many memorable events. And, after he moved to India, I lost touch a little bit, but we did stay in touch online periodically on Facebook and other sources. And I got the sense that he was just having the time of his life. He was very happy in India. He was doing kirtan with his I want to say harmonium, with his accordion everywhere. He would send videos of just enlivened people singing and dancing with him. Many times he was just alone, and there would be a little crowd around him, and they would just be so enlivened, and old men would be dancing, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. So as I see it, his life was perfect, and he's a wonderful example for all of us, and he will certainly be missed. And we will be, when it is possible, we will be coming to India to help his Advaita and Nanda and Liana and Kim to take his ashes and put them in the Yamuna once more. Idanyas Vibhava Prabhu Ki Jai. Hare Krishna.
Is that a? It looks like he cut out. I couldn't hear you there. Is that a painting of Edhani's in your background?
Oh. The sound just came through. Actually, that is not a painting. That is something that happens on your screen when there's nothing behind in a certain space on Zoom.
Okay.
However, I do have one of his space scenes.
Yeah.
It's a pretty large one, about a 36 by 48. He was quite an artist, amazing artist.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Next, we're going to go to Mother Kunti, and after Mother Kunti, we'll ask Rohini Sutta Prabhu to speak. And just a reminder, if anybody else would like to speak, please send me a message so we can add you to the queue. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Oops,
we
sorry.
can hear you.
No, I'll turn mine down. Don't worry.
This is good.
Okay. Just making sure I'm not too loud. Okay. So I don't know if everyone can see, but I can't do the WhatsApp download. I wanted to,
Yes.
but here's a picture of our wedding. And as you can see, Nandita Gokul is the matron of honor. And Edhani Yaswabhava Prabhu is the best man. This was our wedding in August 19th, 1995. And of course, Sri Rupa is in this photo. He's the ring bearer. And anyway, it's hard to follow Shalagram's glorification, but I was sitting in the Tata Sumo when we were pulling away, and if Kim is on the phone, if she's listening, I know she was there and Nanda was there, and his sixth sense was uncanny. He was very Lorraine Owens is listening. Hi, Lorraine. I've never got to meet you, but we're so glad you're on. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, he immediately he looked at me, said, Mother Kunti, this isn't right. This is not right. And I said, okay, Prabhu, whatever you think, I'll follow you. And he got out of the van, just like Shalagram said, and threw open the back, and we found another ride. So it worked out. It was a very poignant trip, but we felt very privileged to be a part of it. So I've written one of those things where you attribute a quality to every letter of someone's name. And his name is Edhani Yaswabhava. So the first one, excellent cook. Everything he cooked was pure nectar. Devoted to Krishna and Srila Prabhupada. Happy in Krishna consciousness. Affable, always friendly and making friends with people. Nice. He was very nice, always. Intelligent. He would apply Krishna consciousness in every circumstance. Youthful. He would always look for something with a youthful eye. He would look at things very fresh. He would always look at it like it was fresh. Artistic in everything he did. We have so many of his little art pieces in our house, and I'm very tearful. I'm missing him a lot, and his wife both. Sincere in Krishna consciousness is the S after the YAS. And next one is victorious in Krishna consciousness. Able devotee. Beautiful heart. Honest to a fault. Always kind. Very loving. A gentleman. I knew him since the late 70s also, and 80s. And I miss him very much. I'm going to turn it over to the next person, and I just want to thank everyone for letting me be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mama. Thank you so much for sharing with us. We love you. Thank you, Edhani Aswabhava Prabhu Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Thank you. Next, we'll go to Rohini Sutta Prabhu, and Rohini Sutta Prabhu will be followed by Lorraine Owens. And again, if you would like to speak, please send me a message.
You're muted.
Looks like he's unmuted now, but I still can't hear you. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't look like it's coming through. Maybe we'll go to Lorraine Owens and then we'll come back to you and see if we can get the, yeah, we'd like to hear from you, Prabhu. Thank you,
Hello.
Lorraine. Hello.
Hello,
Thank you
Hare
for being
Krishna.
here. Hare Krishna.
I just want to show a beautiful painting my brother gave me in December 17th of 1990 as a Christmas gift. And he was such a beautiful soul, and I will miss him dearly. And it's hard for me to speak right now, but I want to show this beautiful artwork. And it's in my living room. Can you see it?
Yes. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I remember that painting very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for sharing. He was so very talented.
Yes,
in
he
so
was.
many different ways.
I would probably say more, but not at this time.
Sure. Absolutely. Understandable.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Rohini Sutta Prabhu, should we try one more time? He's showing me his microphone. It looks like he's having some issues still. Okay. It looks like Kimberly Cotton will go to you next. And if anybody else would like to speak after Kimberly, please let us know.
I wanted Dvaitacharya to speak for sure.
Hare Krishna. I mean, I won't take too much time, but I actually wanted to let everybody know on my page. On Saturday, I lead the kirtans here. I organize the kirtans for our weekend kirtans here at the temple in Potomac, Maryland. And I kind of tried to organize a little offering to Edhani Prabhu and gave him some Mahaprashadam and put his picture there. And Gauravani was really kind to sing Jai Nilo Pramadana in honor of Edhani Prabhu. And though there weren't as many people there who knew him, I still wanted to say something. And some devotees there said something. So I posted it live. It's on my page if anybody would like to see that. It was for Saturday. So I guess I just wanted to say that just how much I appreciated Edhani. Like for me, for my beginning in my Krishna conscious years, he try not to get emotional. Sorry. Me me being a musician as well really connected with Edhani, and Edhani was just so encouraging to not just, I mean, so many other people, but for me, I mean, he really helped me in my beginning years in Krishna conscious, and helped encourage me to do kirtan, and just made me like, and not just me, but so many others, like just really feel that Krishna magic, you know, like that. He just when he would lead kirtan, and just how fired up he was and encouraging he was in Krishna consciousness. Even when I left the San Antonio area, and it had been years, he still reached out to me and contacted me when he saw pictures when I was in India, and asked how I was doing. And I've always just been grateful for everything he's done personally in my life, and his service to Srila Prabhupada, and how dedicated he was, and how much love he had in his heart, that it just like poured out, and how much love he had for Krishna, you know, and Prabhupada. So I'm just always feel that gratitude in my heart. And I guess a lot of that sadness is just the fact that he's gone, and I think a sadness that I didn't get to really say goodbye, and that I didn't keep in touch better. And it's just sad that we have to lose someone, you know, lose a devotee before we really can reflect and appreciate like their association. So anyways, that's just what I wanted to share. And thank you everyone so much for sharing your wonderful stories about Edhani Prabhu. I can't remember at the top of my head like any specific like stories, but I just have a lot of sweet memories of when he was in the San Antonio area, and doing kirtan with him and his really uplifting association. So yeah, thank you everyone.
Thank you so much for sharing and for being here. We're grateful to have you here. Thank you very much. Next, we'll call on Sarvabhauma Prabhu. You're still muted, Prabhu.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Firstly, I wanted to share a message from Kalakanta Prabhu, who's in Houston. He couldn't be on the call, but Kalakanta was in Portland when Edhani joined, and Kalakanta shaved up Edhani, and Kalakanta praised Edhani, and it was at Mangalarti a couple of days ago that Kalakanta announced that Edhani had departed physically. I always appreciated Edhani's natural love for devotees and Krishna and Prabhupada, and for kirtan. And he would, I guess I knew him in Houston when he was here. He would go to chant at, there was one nightclub that would pay us to do kirtan, and he would go there sometimes with devotees. And I got an email from him just in December. Was not a really close friend of his, but I contacted him, and I'd like to read the email. It's very brief. I'll see if I can get it. So he wrote, "You just have my humble basis, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nice to hear from you. I live south of Delhi in Noida. I've been in lockdown, but still find time and opportunity to do Harinam in a beautiful park across the street from where I live. And every now and then get invited for kirtan at one place called the Gypsy Cafe. the owner really appreciates kirtan, and we were invited for a wedding party. Other than that, I just isolate with Krishna and sadhana and Srila Prabhupada's books. I hope all is good on your end. I think of Sri Sri Nitai Chaitanya Chandra often and still meditate on their merciful forms. Haribol and well wishes, your servant Edhani Ashabhava, or just Edhani. I saw Edhani the last time physically. I was in Chicago. I had helped arrange a program, a George Harrison tribute at the Chicago Temple. And I was delighted to see Edhani. He came and saw the program. And he's one devotee that I think myself and probably many devotees took for granted. But someone that has such a pure heart and a pure love for kirtan and devotional service is very, very rare. So all of us are so fortunate that we've had any contact with such a great devotee. Edhani Prabhu Ki Jai.
Hi. Thank you, Sarvabhauma Prabhu. Thank you so much for being here. Next, we'll go to Bhagavan Narada Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, when I found out the news, it hit me pretty heavy like everybody else. But as far as my relationship with Edhani, he really helped me a lot. Him and Raghava Chaitanya, just seeing them together, the way that they would interact and the way that they would, come together and just inspire us and really connect with us through the holy name. We're decades of years apart, but it was a really strong example of how putting Krishna in the center can just transcend time. It can transcend cultures or anything. So sometimes, a few of us, we'd be having some difficulties in the ashram. It's very difficult, especially when you're in a kind of a grassroots situation. And, the first 3 or 4 years of your life, you're trying to start a temple. The first 3 or 4 years of your Krishna consciousness or aspiring, trying to become a devotee. And it was sweet because especially Mike and I, we would be really just fried out or tired or struggling, trying to overcome our addictions, trying to overcome so many difficulties, living with each other all of a sudden. And I can remember a few instances where Raghava and Chaitanya and Edhani, they would just show up. Like when we were at the bottom, like we were done, we're out of here. I mean, I'll pack my bags tomorrow, literally. And they would just show up. I remember one time it was just raining. It was like a really miserable day. And Raghava and Edhani just spontaneously show up in the middle of this thunderstorm. And we just did we were like at the pits. We were just glooming, looking out of the window, It was just so miserable. They show up in the truck and we just did like a 4 to 5 hour kirtan. There was no words asked. And then like that, we were ready to go for the next month, So I always really appreciated his artistic sense and his spontaneity. There was another time that was really far out. It was another one of those times. Me and Mike were just there like at 10 o'clock, like discussing who knows what. And it was a Monday night, and Raghava Chaitanya and Edhani show up at the temple and they want to go on Harinam. And it's like, hey, it's Monday night, it's 10 o'clock. So we just said, okay, let's do it. So we got in the car and we went and we did this Harinam till like 2:30 in the morning on the Riverwalk. And it was just completely empty down the Riverwalk. There's a few people at bars and stuff, but we were like just dancing. Adani's got this big accordion and he's just leading the whole way around. And Raghava Chaitanya was like so fired up. He was like, so it was a huge impact because I can think of many times where I wanted to quit or I was frustrated and like they would show up and I would try to vent, and it was just usually you want to vent or you want to say some negative things to kind of feel like you're getting that sensation. And Edhani would just smile with these really rosy cheeks, and it couldn't penetrate. And so then you're kind of forced to just follow his lead into positivity. And with him, for me, there was no sort of resistance. I would just fall into it. And then he'd look at you with these eyes in the kirtan, and he'd be pumping this harmonium like a madman. And it's just, you're seeing all of this like transcendental spiritual vibration come out of him. And as the years go by, I can kind of have more of an understanding of what was happening. Yeah, it's difficult. So we used to do these shows at a place called Gig, and my contribution at the time was just setting up these shows, these little art shows where we'd have 10, 15 of my friends come in and they'd play with their guitars, and we did probably, I don't know, 7 or 8 of them. Gunagrai Maharaj joined in, Jivananda, my Guru Maharaj. And so I'd have all my friends come in, and we'd pack this little coffee shop with like 80 people, 120 people. And the guy Ruben would freak out because he's used to having like 10 people there, right? So we'd have these mantra rock dances. So I was kind of still tied into the scene at the time, and we'd have all sorts of, we'd have vulgar musicians there. We'd have all sorts of weird acoustic acts. But then you could see Edhani is just like, we're just waiting for them to kind of get done, and Edhani would just take it over. So we'd have all my friends, play, and then my guru or some senior devotee would give a talk, and it was just a really beautiful atmosphere. Ruben had these disco lights, and he had couches, and he was real big on everybody being quiet, like don't talk when the musicians are going. And I could see Edhani, he would just be in the corner just like waiting. Is it my turn yet? Is it our turn yet? And so finally, at the end of the night, we'd start like at 6, and then we'd finish by like 11. And so a few of my friends, they would, as soon as they were done, they'd go out and they'd drink across, because it was on a popular street. They'd get trashed and hammered. And at the end, we'd be there, like Edhani would bring his accordion out. Some of them would come back and he's building it up, and they're coming back drunk, they're singing. And then we would end up like 3 or 4 blocks down the road, like at midnight in front of these other bars. And then we'd be bringing people out of those bars to come across the street. And then we'd take them all the way back to the gig. And it was just like so explosive. And this happened for about 2 years. And still, like, I couldn't really understand what was going on until, time passed on. And he would always talk about these gig shows. And we ended up doing another coffee shop, because that place closed down. So it was just his ability to connect with people. And I think that it was so natural. And a lot of time, I think as devotees, we kind of overthink it. We kind of think, should we wear this dress? Should we wear that dress? Should we prepare this food? But he was very genuine and heartfelt and extremely positive, and that just overrides everything, just a genuine friend. And I'm really grateful for that. And I want to share 2 more things. Is one time I was embarking on like a little bit of my own kind of program in Corpus. I wanted to just start something in Corpus or somewhere else where it's just dry. And I was supposed to go with Mike, but then Mike canceled on me, and then Kavi couldn't come. So I'm freaking out. Like, I'm in total anxiety. Like, I can barely play a 3-beat on a kartal. And so I wrote him, or I talked to him. I think I spoke with him in person. I said, Prabhu, like, I'm going to Corpus. It's just me alone. I don't know what to do, In the yoga studio, we'd get like 30, 40 people down there. And he said, just pray to Lord Nityananda. He says, if you pray to Lord Nityananda and you ask him for something, he's obliged, or he'll give it to you. He says, if you get hung up. And so I was there chanting. I had these little, like the world's smallest kartals. It was ridiculous. They were just so tiny. And I had there's probably 40 people in this yoga studio. It was really my first time leading a kirtan like this. I'm probably a couple years into the movement, and I was so freaked out by it. But I remembered what he said, and I just started really praying to Lord Nityananda, and I'm hitting these little spoons or whatever. And as soon as I open my eyes, there's like 30, 40 people in a circle holding hands, running around the room. And I'm just sitting down, like freaking out, you know? So I got up and I started running around with them. I'm the only, you know, aspiring devotee, or nobody knows what Krishna is. And they're just chanting this mantra. And I remember just being so grateful for that advice. And it's something that stuck with me. And I think it was through his conviction of the holy names, which I'm nowhere near, that was able to somehow show itself. And I'm grateful for that opportunity. And it instilled so much faith into me that I'm totally not qualified. I have no abilities, but just by taking the advice of somebody who has that conviction, we're able to become, I guess, empowered. So there's just one more thing I want to share. I was going through my old Facebook messages the other night, and I'm thinking, like, I was just reading some of our exchanges, and this is just totally Edhani in a nutshell. I said, "Hare Krishna, Prabhu, how are you?" That's all I said. And he says, "Hare Krishna Bhagavan Narada, who strums his veena and automatically sees the pastimes of the Lord, like transcendental TV in the heart. It must be nice to travel in the spiritual sky or throughout the material universes in complete freedom. I am fine by Sri Krishna's grace. Hare Krishna." I'm usually like, "Oh, okay, I'm fine," you know. So I said, I hope to one day follow in those footsteps. So that was something that was written a couple years ago. And whatever I can do, I think that it would be wonderful, as my guru was speaking, if we could do that boat ride with Lord Jagannath, which was something we had thought about pre-COVID in his honor. The Riverwalk is a place where we connected with many people, and he shared the sound vibration in Krishna's names over and over again on that Riverwalk. So in his honor, I would like to help put that together. And if any devotees would like to come, we can set a date when it's safe and when it's available to do that in his name. Edhani Prabhu Ki Jai. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Bhagavan Narada Prabhu. Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu mentioned he's got some more he would like to share. And of course,
I group of Shaman, I just wanted to share anything else too.
Yeah.
Does anybody know the actual complete story of the deprogramming thing?
I know it pretty well. He told it to me twice. He said that, one day he was in the temple, and then he came out, and these people grabbed him and shoved him in a car and took him to this place, this house, and and they took him in and put him downstairs in the basement and locked the door. And he was screaming, and saying, "Please let me out," and then he saw that it was of no use, so he started talking to them, being friendly, and they would come down, and he would fake it like, "Yeah, make some sense, maybe this Krishna stuff is very, not the right thing," and so they develop more consciousness, more friendship, and then one day the person who was coming would bring him food and everything, left the door unlocked, and so he snuck up the stairs, opened the door and looked around. He was trying to sneak out. It was night, and he just, then he got to the door. But when he was opening the door, somebody woke up, the door to the house, And so he looked back and they're running, this man's running after him, and he went running out, ran down the street, and he just kept running until he found a taxi. And he just got in and said, took him, and then I can't remember,
No,
I can't remember if it was in Chicago, but I think it was in Chicago.
it was in Chicago. You're right, Maharaj.
Yes.
Chicago.
And then he just went back to the temple and he was saved.
One of the things, Maharaj,
Yes.
I'm at the very beginning of the story. That was pretty good, but actually, anyway, so what happened was that
Go ahead
the
and tell
taxi,
the whole scene.
he got into the taxi and he went to the police station, and they were being followed in a car by the deprogrammers. And when when he came to the police and said, they've got me held up here and they've got me controlled, they've trying to deprogram me, and the police department said, what are you trying to do to him? They said, well, we just want to bring him back to where he was. They said, well, why do you want to do that? That's all right. He said, no, they want to bring me back so they can continue deprogramming me. And then the policeman said, you know what? You're free to go. Get going. And you better not follow him, because if not, we're going to we'll get you guys locked up and everything. So Edhani was free and he went to the temple. But before that, there was a session there with his parents. They had invited him to a lake apartment. And they told him that, we are liking everything you're doing, everything like that. But just then, when he least expected it, the deprogrammers came in. Do you remember the famous man, the deprogrammer? What's his name? Anyway,
Ted Patrick.
Who?
Ted Patrick.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Budiman. Haribol. Yeah. So anyway, so what happened was that, so his parents got him locked up with all the deprogrammers, and so once he was free and he went to the Chicago temple, the devotees picked him up and helped him through it. He later on went to his parents and said, why did you do this? And they were very sorry for what they did. His mother was very, very sorry, and the father was very unhappy and said, no, you're free to do anything you want in life. Forgive us. We thought we were trying to help you, but obviously we realized that we were hurting you all the time. So Edhani was free. He was free to preach, to chant, to dance, and enliven all of us in our lives. Thank you so much.
The amazing thing was when he went to the Chicago temple, because he'd been praying to Lord Nrsingadev to save him. It was Nrsingadev's appearance day.
Yes. Actually, he didn't go to
Oh,
Chicago
that's right.
first.
That's right. That's great. That's great, Dinabandhu Prabhu.
He didn't go to Chicago first. We were in Minneapolis, St. Paul at our preaching center, and he called us there. And so some of the devotees from there went and picked him up. And then we drove him from there to the airport, and then he went to Chicago, I guess, after that.
Oh, yeah, great.
Yeah, I wanted to add the same thing Dinabandhu would say, because Edhani was saying that they took him to the theater one time, and he almost got away there, but he had to build a little more confidence. So at the house that night, then he took off running, and he found some other people in a car. And those people took him to the police station. He found a guy in the station wagon, and the other car was chasing them as they were driving to the police station. Wow.
Yeah, there you go. And that was it. I believe it. Yeah, that's the way it goes. But anyway, Krishna protected him, and he's protected all of us. God bless him.
There was anybody from Houston, maybe Sarva remembers, maybe not, I don't know. There was a big club somewhere in Chicago, and they would ask the devotees to come and do Harinam there. And when Edhani was there, I can't remember the name of the place, but it was like a down, you have to go down underneath into like this big, like an underground parking lot, which was this big like concert place. It's called something to do with machines. Narottam was there and he was told me the
Yeah.
story yesterday.
It's
Remember the
called
name of the place?
Power Tools.
Power Tools. So he
They
was
would-
telling me that, huh?
They would pay us to chant.
Nice.
That was Houston.
Yeah, Houston. So what happened was
Yeah.
they went down there and it was called like the Battle of Religions or something like that. They had priests from all different churches there, and then they had, you know, several different churches, and then they had the devotees there. And so they asked the devotees to sit on this huge table, this big round table, and start the kirtan. And when Edhani Prabhu started chanting, all of a sudden he lost his voice.
Oh.
And then he stopped and he started to pray. And of course, Narottam didn't know what was going on, but he was watching Edhani. And then all of a sudden, Edhani started singing again. And it was like the holy name descended into this place and totally transformed this whole place. And the kirtan was just raging. And Edhani, of course, was leading the kirtan. And all these hundreds of kids were in there, and they came and danced with the kirtan, and it was just total, like a wonderful, ecstatic experience. And Narottam asked him later, what happened? It looked like you lost your voice. He goes, yeah, I lost my voice. So I just prayed to Lord Nityananda to somehow give me back my voice and use me as a tool for this kirtan. And Narottam said it was one of those kind of kirtans where it's like, the internal potency just like floods the kirtan, and you know, it's like the Lord is there, you know, it's like a really powerful experience. So you guys did that several times, right? Sarva, you were
Yeah.
there?
I only went a few times, but I think over a period of years, the club invited us back and they paid us $100 every time or something.
That's right.
So, but different devotees would go there. I think Gunagari Maharaj went a few times, and the club is not still there, I don't think, now.
They had all these different rooms. And we would go from one room to the next. They had, you know, there was an area outside. It was kind of overlooking a little river or something.
Oh, that's right. That's
Quite
right.
amazing.
Wow.
They overlooked the bayou downtown.
Yeah.
It was kind of a far out place.
It was. Edhani used to also, whenever he had the opportunity, he used to go and visit famous musicians like B.B. King. He met B.B. King more than once, and he would take him a book and he'd take him prasadam, and somehow or other he would just magically get in to see him. And they'd spend a little time together and talk, and he'd give him a book and give him prasadam. Oh, he even painted a painting for him.
Wow.
So there were a couple of musicians like that he would, you know, go through the trouble to try and meet them when they were in town. It was really amazing. He also had a connection with Edhani, who is George Harrison's son. You know, partly because their names were so similar. I don't know what exactly the connection was, but somehow or other he met him or got to talk to him one time.
Well, he talked to him, and then through Dunny, he got to speak to George. Got to talk to George online. And they were talking about different, like, I forget which album it was, but Edhani recognized George's, it was one of the Hare Krishna ones. And Edhani recognizes George, of course, his guitar and his singing. And George says, oh, wow, you have a good ear, you know? And so then Edhani also suggested to him at that time, this is many years ago, that he should redo that one. I think it was My Sweet Lord, because George got, I think it was the Temptations who originally wrote that particular tune that he used. And then he had to pay, you know, some royalty fines or something like that. And Edhani, you know, like about a year or two before George rewrote it, Edhani suggested, hey, why don't you rewrite the, you know, My Sweet Lord, and George did. Wow. Redid it, you know. So he was in touch with George a little bit.
Yeah.
Wonderful. We had one more person that asked to speak, Giri Raj Govardhan Prabhu. So I don't think he can turn his video on, but we'll be able to hear you, Giri.
Hey, sorry, I decided to speak late, but I always think of Edhani Prabhu as like my uncle because I never really knew my dad's family. So it was just Edhani Prabhu, Chitsugananda Prabhu, and Raghava Prabhu. You know, I used to spend a lot of my holidays at his house at Canyon Lake with Chitsugananda Prabhu's sons. And it was pretty much the only person I could call my uncle. He always tried to, of all my dad's friends, they're all super intense. But he was really nice compared to them. They're all trying to whoop my butt into shape to be a hardcore devotee. And he was just there to let us have fun. He was always hosting us, me and Vibatsu, to go shoot arrows and check out his dinosaur mountain. He had dinosaur footprints all over his property. And I remember looking up to his youngest son, Nanda, a lot. He always had a cool haircut, guitars, and movie posters in his rooms. Every time he wasn't home, Edhani Prabhu would let us sneak into his room and look at all of his stuff and watch all of his movies. So it was really fun. It was like his house was a resort, you know. We'd set up tents in his backyard, stay there, even though there was a perfectly nice house to stay in. We'd eat all of Nanda's cereal, play Monopoly back to back for like 12 hours straight. So it was just a really good, a huge part of my childhood. So I just really appreciate that. And I'd like to, yeah, that's it. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you very much, Giri, for sharing that. Thank you. Really appreciate it. I guess I'd like to just make sure, is there anybody else that hasn't had a chance to speak yet? If you would like to, you can take yourself off mute.
What about Rohini? Has he figured his thing out yet?
I don't think he's here anymore. It looks like he dropped.
Can I throw something in there?
Yes,
of course.
There's one thing about Edhani. The thing that amazed me about him, and devotees in general, but him, you know, having his association and stuff. So the thing that amazed me about him is no matter what circumstance, why? Huh? They don't want to see me. Oh, they want to see me. Anyway, the thing that amazed me about him, no matter what situation I was ever in with him, he had this ability to dovetail every situation into his Krishna consciousness. And that's one of the things that I really appreciated, because it didn't matter what I did with him, somehow or other, we would always go into Krishna consciousness. And like the devotee that just spoke, you know, he was saying how he went there and they were playing, you know, what was that game? Monopoly. Oh yeah, okay. So they would play Monopoly, but the thing is no matter what situation that individual was in, somehow or other, he would always either tell you a pastime or encourage you in your Krishna consciousness. And that's the thing that I love devotees like this. And he was one of those. He was so easy to love that, you know, and you know, I mean, you can keep him around the house and absolutely no problem. He wouldn't move in with me because I was too crazy. But anyway, I just wanted to throw that in, that he was very lovable and very, like, no matter the situation, no matter what, he would always be Krishna conscious. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there.
Hare Krishna. I just, sorry, I hope the TV's not that loud. I'm just at work. Thank you for organising this wonderful event. It's been wonderful hearing about Edhani Prabhu. I also have so many wonderful, I remember a particular kirtan on the river walk, and we were there until the early hours of the morning. I just remember Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu, Edhani and Raghava just in the middle. They were really so intense in the kirtan, and it was just a wonderful memory that I have. And I just wish I'd have taken more opportunity really to have Edhani's association. Really, that's what I'm missing, and I'm taking from this as well, is that it's such a huge emptiness that he's left us, moved on, and I just wish I'd have had more association with him. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Srirangavati Prabhu. Guru Prasad Maharaj, would you like to say anything else?
No, just all my obeisances, and he was just such a wonderful devotee. I don't know what else I could say other than he'll be an inspiration for me for the rest of my life. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Anybody else want to say anything?
Yeah, and I just want to ask one more time, his family members that are on, I just want to give them one more chance. Of course, no pressure, but Adwaita Nanda, if you would like to say anything, please just, take yourself off mute at any point or send me a message.
I'm not really going to speak right now or anything, but I just want to say thank you to everyone for putting this all together. So it's been nice and good to see that he's loved by so many. But that's all I'm going to say right now. So
thank you, Adwaita.
Thank you
So much. It's very nice to hear your voice. Thank you for being here, and thank you to Nanda also. Nice to have you both here.
Thank you.
Hello,
Yes.
this is Lori, Edhani's sister.
Yes.
I just want to say thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna. I will miss my brother, but I know he's still with us forever. He will be with us always. And he was such a beautiful brother, and I will miss him dearly. And I just know he's with Krishna or Prabhupada. He taught me so much. He was so loving. And I am a better person because of him. That's all. Good night.
That's wonderful.
Thank you so much. You want to say anything else, Chit?
Yeah, well, I want to say one thing. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I want to thank Edhani for all his great service to all of us. He always talked about his great love for Dinabandhu Prabhu in India. And I have to admit, I'm a little envious of it. but I have to understand one thing. Whatever, he gave everyone so much kindness and love, and he gave me my portion, so I'm not unhappy. And I'm happy to see that Raghava, who he loves so much, and he loves you, Edhani, and Guru Prasad Maharaj. He loved everyone. In his intimate group was myself, Raghava, and himself in the West. And Dinabandhu always, he loved Dinabandhu till the end of his life. And so I respect that, and I love him, and love to all. And Jai Srila Prabhupada loves all of us. He loves every devotee with all his heart, and he's waiting for us. Now he's gone. Edhani was so close to Prabhupada that he went to Prabhupada. So we're all waiting for our moment too. Well, God bless you all. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for participating. And I thank everyone, and thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maternath Prabhu.
I can tell one story, Rupa Prabhu.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Edhani Prabhu used to live right next door to us, and he would have a problem waking up in the morning. So he tried his alarm clock, and his alarm clock wouldn't wake him up. So somehow he hooked his alarm clock to the speakers in his house. And so it would go, his speakers would go off, but it still didn't wake him up. So then he hooked them to the lights in his house so that the speakers would come on and his lights would flash. So every morning, Edhani would wake me up with his kirtan and his lights flashing for Mangalarti, but he never woke up. So I just want to thank him for waking me up every morning and for giving me some of his association. I didn't take as much as I should have, but he was one of the sweetest, most humble devotees you'd ever want to meet. And
Edhani Prabhu ki jai.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Wonderful.
Oh, Haribo.
Yes. Shakshi.
No.
Oh.
Mother Chandravali.
Mother Chandravali. Oh,
Haribo, Mother Chandravali.
Yeah, I'm sorry that my granddaughter wasn't feeling well, so I had to keep going back and forth, and I didn't know if I was going to be able to say anything. But most of you, seems like every little bit and piece that I tried to pick up, you've said practically everything I wanted to say, especially the part about Deep Ellum that Shalagram Prabhu was speaking of. I just wanted to say that those were some marvelous times that we had down there. Singing, chanting, and distributing small books. And we would get prasadam from the restaurant, halava and pakoras and tamarind tea, and we would be distributing that on the side. And people were just coming and, Deep Ellum, you get your portion of woozy and alcoholic type people. And so they would come by, they would dance and, and do a little this and that, a jig, and then they'd keep on going. But when we would stay there past midnight to 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and we would just be singing, and Edhani would be on the keyboard sometime, and Mahatma Prabhu. This was during the time when Krishna Fest was staying in Dallas a lot. So Mahatma Prabhu and Gunagarai Maharaj would be there. Gunagarai Maharaj would be on the electric drums, and Mahatma Prabhu would be on the keyboard. And then there was Shalagram Prabhu and another devotee named Ra. One would play the bass guitar, and the other would play whatever you call the other guitar. And we would just be singing, and sometimes Rati Manjari would be here, and it was just like fabulous. The whole place, it was just like we could have charged just to be on that street corner, chanting the holy names. And around 1 or 2 o'clock, we'd be singing and having our eyes closed. And you'd open our eyes and it would be people all around, just jumping and dancing and singing. And Edhani would always finish off the last kirtan. And he would just really rock the house. And everybody was just in ecstasy. And actually, when he first came to Dallas, how I became friends with he and his wife is that Kamala and my daughter Anuradha really hit it off as friends. And so because they became good friends, naturally I became friends with Edhani and Nandita Gokul. And so I think I think it was that she wanted Kamala to, have friends. So she would have Anuradha spend sleepovers on the weekend. And in that way, I was able to come by there a lot. And she would, when I come back from Sankirtan to pick her up, sometimes they would keep her. And then she said, come on in and have dinner with us. So, and then we would sit down and talk about Krishna consciousness. And they had, there was Advaita, there was Nanda, there was Kamala, and he and Nandita. And I was thinking, do you have enough to spare? Do you have enough to spare that we could eat too? And they'd always just welcome us right in. And they were just both very Krishna conscious. Very Krishna conscious. They loved kirtan. They loved preaching and distributing books. And just and even when they moved to Canyon Lake and Nandita passed away, Edhani would still come to Ratha Yatras, and then as Chaitanya Chandra Prabhu said, he would come for St. Patrick's Day. And it was just so nice to hear him sing and have him around with this Krishna conscious mood. So, and plus he was so festive. He was just a lot. He was a whole lot of everything. Artist, singer, preacher. I just can't begin to, quote all the qualities that he had. And like I said, everybody said so many things that I wanted to say, but I just want to let him know that I'll miss him very much. I think the last time I saw him was at Sadhu Sangha, if I'm not wrong. I think I saw him at Sadhu Sangha in 2019, and we talked for a long time. So I'll really miss him, and I have no doubt that he's definitely on that path going back to see Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Edhani Vasya Baba Ki Jai.
Yeah. Haribol.
Very well. Thank you, Chandra. That's nice.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, good.
Shakshi, you want to say anything?
Thank you, Shakshi, for connecting up for Grandma.
You're welcome. Edhani Prabhu Ki Jai.
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 Anybody else that didn't get a chance to speak or that would like to share anything else?
Haribol.
Haribol.
Shit, want to say something else?
Oh, what can I say? But I'm just grateful to all the devotees that we've all come together to wish Edhani the very best future. And no doubt with all these prayers and all these devotees together, he's going a long way. He's going back to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for the. It's just beautiful, all of you. I'm thinking that I want to die soon too. Yeah, it's so nice to have all the devotees remember you. And I was thinking, my God, how will they remember me? But anyway, how will they remember? But then the beauty, we still have some life to do, and we still have some kirtans to play, and we'll be remembering him as we do our devotional life and activities, as we chant, as we pray, because he's part of our life and he's part of our soul.
Oh, I have a story to share.
Thank you. Yeah, please do.
Bhagavan Narada mentioned it when we were talking earlier, that when Srila Prabhupada went to Berkeley, Edhani was there, and the neighbors were really intense about the devotees. They didn't really want them there and stuff. So the devotees made a rule that you outside we can't offer obeisances. You can only offer pranams with your hands. Even to Prabhupada, the devotees couldn't bow down. It was So what happened was Edhani was outside. I think he was circumambulating the temple, but it was at least walking around chanting. And he saw Srila Prabhupada. I think Srila Prabhupada was indoors at the window. And Edhani saw Srila Prabhupada, so he put his hands up on his head and offered a sincere prayer to Prabhupada. And he put his hands down and Prabhupada put his hands up and offered like a pranam to Edhani. And then when that happened, Edhani was chanting his rounds, and all of a sudden Edhani said the entire everything just disappeared. It just became him and the holy name. It was like Prabhupada just blessed him with a really amazing transcendental absorption in the holy names. And Edhani was just chanting and like totally in ecstasy after Prabhupada blessed him like that. And he was always so grateful to Prabhupada for that experience.
That's wonderful, Che. You know, Che, I remember that story. He told us that. He told me that story. Thank God that you remembered it. Wonderful. That's great, Che.
Yeah, he really it really showed how him, sincerely, Prabhupada, whatever he prayed to Prabhupada, Prabhupada heard it, even though it was, and then Prabhupada reciprocated. It's so amazing, right? That Prabhupada could give.
Wonderful.
And Edhani, when he led kirtans, you could see when I was going through some of the kirtans and sending them out to everybody, whatever I'd find on YouTube, and Bhagavan Narada sent me some, and there was that one where he's sitting in Delhi with his, I think it was his new accordion, because he told me the big one, the old one, was hurting his back too much because it weighed 40 pounds. So he was able to get a new accordion. Anyway, so when he was there chanting on that, he was recording, and he had like some little box. Did you hear that one? He had this little box that played some background music. It was kind of fast, but Edhani just started singing along with that. And he went on and changed tunes a few times. And then he turned it off. And when he turned it off, he smiled into the camera, and he gave this beautiful smile. And I could feel when he did that, I was like, no, Edhani's in ecstasy. He's like really getting a taste right now. When he gave that smile, I could feel like this, wow. Edhani was, we had a sweet pastime too, with Dinabandhu Prabhu there in 2016. We got to hang out at Vrindakund, which is this amazing place. That's actually where Dinabandhu is right now, is in Vrindakund. So anyway, that he said he was going to meet us there, and it's like a long way from the highway and the Krishna Balaram temple, and it's really hard to get to, kind of. So we were on the phone talking to each other, and he finally made it with the family that he was staying with. And we sat, and Dinabandhu had this couple, this young lady and this other person that were singing the kirtan there, and me and Edhani were sitting together. And being there in Vrindakund was so powerful. It was so purifying. When they led the kirtan, you could feel this beautiful Vaikuntha sweetness emanating from the ground, like it was like coming out. And me and Edhani were like, whoa, this is really amazing, right? It was like this super sweetness was coming out of Vrindakund, this transcendental sweetness. And we were like, is it really? You feel it too? It was like, wow, man. It was so amazing. We were like, wow. So we had some fun together there in India. That was sweet. I told you about the car wreck we got into already, right? Right? I mentioned that?
Yes, yeah, only backing down on the ramp.
Well, thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Dinabandhu Prabhu, I see that you joined us again. Would you like to say anything else? We're kind of just going around to see if anybody has anything to add before we wrap it up.
Maybe I could say a few things. This is Kalachandji from Chicago.
Oh, sure,
wow,
yes.
I will.
Haribol Samaya Basin says, I want to, on behalf of Shikshastika and myself, I just want to offer our condolences to the family. And whenever Edhani came to Chicago, we had the great fortune because he was born and raised in Hammond, Indiana, which is only about 20 minutes from where I was raised. And when he would go visit his sister, he'd give me the honor to go to pick him up at the house and drive him to the temple.
So I joined.
Sorry, we kind of got.
Sorry, 1 second, College Energy, we're just getting a little bit of, okay, you should be good now. Sorry about that.
Okay. So no problem. So, everybody has said everything, all the important topics that really Edhani personified the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. He was more tolerant than a tree and more humble than a blade of grass. And he was one of those few devotees that when you associated with him, no matter how many problems you were having yourself, they kind of disappeared when you started to associate with Edhani. So one of the things that when he would come to Chicago, then he would say, well, can I stay with you? So a few times he'd actually stay with us for a couple of months, and we would have the opportunity to spend a lot of time together every day, and Shikshastika would cook every day, and we'd get to associate. And I was just always amazed how he loved to chant his japa. And, that's probably the last thing I like to do every day is chant japa, but I was always amazed that Edhani just had a love for chanting japa. And, one time when he was staying here, I said, Prabhu, was there anything that, I can do for you? So we helped him with a little bit of his preaching. And I remember one time he said, well, my mouth hurts, I think I got this really bad toothache. So I said, you know what, I'm going to take you to my dentist in Chicago. He's the best. So he said, okay. He's so humble. And I said, so I talked to my dentist. I said, whatever you need to do, this is a great saintly personality. Whatever you need to do to make his mouth feel good, you take care of him. So the dentist took Edhani in, and the dentist came out and he goes, your friend needs a lot of help with his mouth. It's, he really needs a lot of work done. I'm like, well, whatever it needs, so as a little bit of service to help Edhani feel a little bit better, so we could keep chanting, hopefully, the great chanting that he used to do. But it was just really nice for him to stay with us, and again, taking him to the temple. And I know he likes seeing Yadavacharya because we're all Polish. I'm Polish, the material body, and Edhani and Yadavacharya. So we would always have some kind of bonding there, I think. And so I'm going to really miss Edhani a lot. And, I just want to thank everybody for giving me a couple minutes to say something about him today. Hare Krishna, all glories to Edhani Ki Jai.
Kalachanji.
Say more if you like.
Kala.
Haribol.
It's that Krishna conscious Polish power. Haribol.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
Dinabandhu Prabhu, I think you were trying to say something at one point and it was breaking up. Do you want to try again?
Yeah, I was just saying that the net went out here, that's all.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. We're just
so now I'm on data on my phone.
Okay. Got it. Understood. Okay.
I'm just thankful to everyone.
Yes.
I learned so many things about Edhani I didn't know, because I just saw him when he joined and I didn't know about his great love for kirtan. It's all amazing. This was a wonderful session. I was very happy. Thank you very much for organizing it.
No, Bandhu, he loved you dearly. He mentioned you quite a bit.
Yes.
Yeah, when he would come, when he would come to Chicago and stuff, when he would come to our house or we would gather at Kala's, he would very often he would mention you about your association and how much he loved your association. Hare Krishna.
Hari Bol.
Wonderful.
Come on, want to say something else?
Kamal, Prabhu, would you like to say anything else?
I just want to thank all of you. I mean, you guys knew him from his youngest time, but I just knew him from a couple of months, and I have no words to explain that how he touched my and my family's heart, and what he has. The light of Krishna he has given to us as nobody has done it for us, and I'm feeling so lucky and unlucky at the same time that I had very few uh, months to be with him and take care of him. And
Thank you so much. Thank you.
and he used to talk about Deen Bandhuji every time, every single moment. He used to just switch to and start talking about Deen Bandhuji. So
Hari Bol.
I think I am the lucky lot that we took care of him, and I'm just running out of words. I can't, express my grief right now. So just praying for him. That's it. And thank you so much for putting everything together for him and giving me a chance to speak about him. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Hari Bol.
Thank you. Kimberly, you mentioned you've got somebody else that would like to speak.
We're having technical difficulties, so I have him on my phone right now.
Okay.
Let's.
Can I speak right now?
Yeah.
You can hear me?
Can you guys hear it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, this is Das from Washington. And I only know Edhani through Raghava Chaitanya and Govinda and Govardhan and some of the devotees in where he was in Texas. I give devotees I'm chanting Hare Krishna pamphlets, and he contacted me through Raghava Chaitanya. We developed a friendship, but I've never met him. Actually, I never even saw him in person, only until recently when Kimberly said, "Oh, one of your godbrothers passed away." But he was always so encouraging for the service that I'm doing. And I would post videos of our Hari Nams, and he would always say, "Oh, this is such wonderful service. You're doing such nice service." So I just know that aspect of him, that I know he was totally sold out for Harinam Sankirtan and spreading the holy name and doing kirtan. And he encouraged me to do the same in my service. So I just wanted to say that, because Kimberly did a little memorial service at the Potomac Temple. And actually, of all the godbrothers that were there, I was the only one that actually knew him or had any dealings with him. So I felt the obligation to speak. And so I just wanted to say that it's not much. I was listening to some of the wonderful pastimes, but he just always encouraged me in continuing doing my service. That's
Wonderful.
I have so much more to say.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, no, thank you, Kimberly, for inviting me.
Thank you, Kimberly. Rupanuga Prabhu and Mother Jayanti, would you like to say anything?
Oh, he wants to say one more thing. Sorry.
Go ahead.
All right, one of my closest friends in the whole world is Rupanuga Prabhu, who's one of Prabhupada's very first disciples and first person Srila Prabhupada appointed to the GBC. And I told this to Kimberly, and I confirmed it again with Rupanuga today. When a devotee, a disciple of Srila Prabhupada passed away, they asked Srila Prabhupada what we should do, how we should remember the devotee. And Prabhupada said this, even though right now I'm injecting that ISKCON's become very much Hinduized, and the different programs and things that they do isn't exactly what Srila Prabhupada told us as his disciples, how we should honor our god brothers or god sisters. And the formula was this: when a disciple passes away, 3 days from when they pass away, and Kimberly, I misinformed you. I found out from Rupanuga. So the first day doesn't count. So it's 3 days after they pass away. You hold a feast in honor of that devotee. You do kirtan, and then the plate of Mahaprasadam gets set in front of a picture of the devotee. And you get a Maha garland. You put the garland on the picture. And then the devotees glorify or say the wonderful qualities and their remembrance of that devotee. And then at the end, the Mahaprasadam plate is when devotees are honoring the feast. All the devotees get some of that Maha from the plate put in front of departed disciples' picture. And Rupanuga was saying that's the formula that Srila Prabhupada gave us as his disciples. What other people do, and that's up to them, but this is how he instructed us to honor a Vaishnava. And I heard a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, which Prabhupada said that the prayers of the Vaishnava when another Vaishnava departs are taken very seriously by Krishna, by the Lord. That it's very similar to a character witness who comes before a judge before judgment is given. And Krishna takes the words of the devotees very seriously into consideration before judgment is cast. So that's another important aspect of coming together as brothers and sisters and saying something wonderful about our god brother, god sister, and their qualities and their service, like that Krishna takes all that into consideration before he makes a final decision. And someone challenged me today on that. Well, blah, 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 blah. I said, I don't know. This is what Prabhupada said, so you can take it. I believe it wholeheartedly. Rupanuga believes it wholeheartedly. So I just wanted to share that with all of you, too. Because I don't think many people have ever heard that, or maybe they have, but I know a lot of the newer devotees have never heard that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you, Kimberly.
What did you
Is Dina Bandhu still there?
Yeah, Dina Bandhu's there.
Hare Krishna, Dina Bandhu is Palka. You probably remember me from Washington when you come through. But did you ever hear that, what Rupanuga was saying?
Yeah, of course. That's what we do in Vrindavan.
Oh, okay, wonderful.
On the third day, we have a memorial, and we offer Mahaprasad to the picture, and certainly Mahaprasad is shared with everyone.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, because most devotees here never heard that.
Don't know that, yeah. No, well, if you live in India, you know all these things.
But I'll tell you something. Like Indians, they devotees that when one of our god brothers Mahari passed away, they were saying, no, it's the 10th day, on the 10th day, not on the 3rd day. They had a whole different program.
Yeah, well, in India, there's 11th day, there's 13th day, so many things. But that's what Prabhupada said was third day.
Well, I
You
think
give 2 days. You give 3 days to grieve, because otherwise, right away, it's such a shock, we'll start crying. So on the third day, we do it.
that's very much, I was raised a Catholic, and in the Catholic tradition, probably a lot of the Christian traditions, you have the funeral is you have a wake, and the funeral is on the 3rd day. Of course, in India, cremate the body right away, but anyway, there's a 3-day period too in that tradition.
Of course, sometimes we have to adjust things, like I'm sure they had this on Sunday, although it's Monday morning for us here. I'm sure they had it on Sunday so everybody could join. We have to adjust things according to time, place, and circumstance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Palka. Thank you, Kimberly.
I guess he had one last thing to say to Dina Bandhu.
I was just asking when he's coming back to America. Take us
Right now, they banned us from coming.
Oh,
Yeah, that can't last forever.
I love your program. I see your videos every time you send them.
Yeah, I know. Well, you inspired us by coming out with us. You know, every time you come in town, you always join us.
No, I love Harinam. I never knew this about Edhani. I knew he had an accordion, but I didn't know he was such a kirtaniya. So this was a wonderful session.
Actually, you know, on his Facebook page, he puts that as his occupation.
Achha.
Dharma. That's his occupation.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I wanted to say, before I forget, a big thank you to Guru Prasad Maharaj and Bhagavan Narada Prabhu for also helping to arrange this and putting this together, making this happen, bringing us all together. I personally felt like Dinabandhu Prabhu was, you know, so many people said it, for me was one of the sweetest, kindest devotees I had ever met in my life. And I felt that that came out so clearly in this gathering with everybody together remembering him. And so, yeah, just so grateful to be with you all. And the other kind of inspiration I got is that we should do along with the river kirtan in San Antonio, we should do a reunion kirtan in Deep Ellum, get a permit, bring Mother Chandravali out and, you know, my father, and when Indranee Lamani comes to visit, and go out and do a big memorial Harinam on the corner like you used to do with Edhani Prabhu. When everything's opened up and it's safe. Wonderful. Well, if anybody would like to say anything else, please come off mute.
Yeah. One last thing. All glories to the Chicago Cubs and my Pittsburgh Pirates.
The Chicago Cubs are still the same. They're not doing anything. They fell asleep.
Well, you know, the Pirates have been asleep for 40 years. So what can I say?
Hare Krishna. He loved the Cubs.
He loved the Cubs.
Look at
He
that.
was here with me when they won the series in 2016.
I know. You know, after 100 years, can you believe it? After 100 years,
I know.
the Cubs won.
It may take
That's
another
amazing.
100 years for them to win again.
Yeah,
Well,
I was
you know
going to say, I
something?
don't.
This is what Edhani was diverse in so many ways, and so, you know, all the devotees diverse, and we have the tendency of, no doubt, above all things, we're Prabhupada's servants eternally. But, you know, there are other little things here and there that make the person ideal and unique in their own way. And all glories to Prabhupada, and all glories to Edhani, and all glories to all of you.
Ki Jai.
Ki Jai. Thank you.
Haribol.
So now let's offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnavas here, and please forgive us for all of our offenses and bless us so we can be fortunate like Edhani.
Thank you. Haribol. All
Edhani
glories
Prabhu ki
to
jai.
Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada.
Sister.
Vivo.
Jai
Haribo.
Haribol Chandrabali.
Hare Krishna, till next time.
Hare Krishna.
Looking for that Harinam.
Haribol.
Looking for that
Haribol
Harinam.
Kunti Devi.
Let us know about the gathering. We'll try to make arrangements and come.
Oh, wonderful.
Wonderful.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Haribol. Haribol.
Haribol.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna. Hare Hare.
Hare
Haribo, Haribo.
So glad you made it, Chitsukananda Prabhu. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
boy.
Yeah.
Oh, Glorious. Thank you so much for all your work and God bless. Great. And to Edhani's family, love to you folks, all of you.
Yeah.
Chit Prabhu.
Yes.
I
Oh,
want to
yeah.
I want to somehow drag
I'm still
Raghav.
on, believe it or not, on the Zoom with these devotees. I didn't know it'd be this long.
I want to come down in the next couple days if possible, so we can, with me, you, and Raghav, we can get together. And
That would be great.
is that all right?
Yeah, you're all welcome. You know that. You too,
I'll
Rup.
try and get it.
Haribo. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dinabandhu Prabhu, also for joining. I sent the message late last night, and I know it's early morning for you, so thank you so much for joining as well, Dinabandhu Prabhu.
Thank you. Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
All glories to Sri Vrindavan Dham.
Jai.
Okay.
Vrinda Kund.
Yeah.
Favorite
Hare
place in
Krishna.
Vrindavan.
Yeah.
Hare
Jai,
Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai Srila Prabhupada. Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Time to get more rounds done.